Good afternoon, and welcome to a surprise episode of About the Cards podcast, live to you on a Sunday. I'm at Big Shep 79, Tim Shepler. I also have my other co-host at Junkwags Twins, Stefan Loeffler's here, and we have a great interview guest as at Big's Daddy Cool has joined us to talk a little hobby talk and do a little special interview on a Sunday. Welcome, fellas. How are we doing?
I'm doing great. How you ladies?
Well, I'm doing pretty well. I've been sorting cards this morning, and that's one of my favorite pastimes to do on the weekends.
Yeah, I'm kind of doing the same. Sorting out some 70s, 80s, as it were, minor league type stuff.
Yeah, I'm going through about 10,000 1984 Topps cards, and no Darryl Strawberries or Don Mattingly's, and I have one 4,000 count box left, so we'll see if they're in there.
You might want to unmute. Tap the little microphone icon. You. We can't hear you. No.
So I had to mute everybody to do the little intro this morning when we come in. So as soon as we get Biggs to mute, we'll start with the interview. But yeah, Steph set this up for us today. We're really excited because we were trying to do some more interviews and get more folks in the hobby onto the show and be able to share that their experiences, what they're collecting, and what they're doing in the hobby. It's great to hear from other voices. So
absolutely,
yeah.
You might try closing the app and rejoining if you can hear us. Nope. But yeah, it's one of those that, you know, we've been trying to do some more stuff outside of just the 10 o'clock show time, and at least 10 Central. But you know, for some of us that aren't on the West Coast, 10 o'clock at night, 10 and 11 o'clock, it's kind of a drag, and some of us like to sleep. But you know, we figured we'd try some of the weekend shows when we're available. Hey, yeah, congrats. Welcome back.
Hey, I think I'm on.
Sorry about that, Biggs. Just with the intro, it's a little something we have to do. So,
I understand.
Welcome. So, give us a little bit back, so we can. I know we can follow you at Biggs Daddy Cool on Twitter, but give us a little background where else we can find you. I know you're all over the place.
If you see Biggs Daddy Cool, it's me. It's that BIGG. I always say that, but it's true. No matter where it's registered, it's me. Anything Twitter, YouTube, Net54 Blowout, Instagram, Snap, wherever.
Pornhub.
Wow. So I know you just started a YouTube page recently and started posting some videos. So give us a little bit info on that.
I did. I had been in the hobby for about roughly 40 years, believe it or not. Got my first pack of cards in 1978. Had been on Twitter since, I want to say, 08 or 09, maybe 07, I'm not sure. It was really early, where it was me and one other guy tweeting at the National, you know, in Cleveland.
August 2008.
Kind of gathered a little bit of a following, but I see a lot of other guys have stuff out there. And there were just some things that I felt I could bring to the platform that some others weren't. Mainly the first few episodes I started out with revolved around sales and how to treat customers as far as dealers go and as far as even us collectors go.
Right. That's why we kind of wanted to bring you on, just to get you to pick your brain a little bit.
So give us a little bit of like what got you into collecting in 1978. So that's awesome. I like finally we have somebody on that was alive and collecting before myself or Ben. We were both born in 79 and started collecting in 86/87. So I've always dreamed about going back and like a time machine and just grabbing boxes of 70s baseball and hiding them and bring them into the future. But just tell us what got you started in back then and what's continued over the last 40 years of collecting.
Well, I was probably about 9 years old at the time, 8 probably in that spring, and just kids in school. I mean, like everybody was into the cards at the time. It wasn't really like it is now, where you had a hard time getting kids into it. Kids would go to the 5 and 10 on Friday night with their parents, and when their parents got paid, and pick up packs of cards for 10 or 25 cents, depending on what they were. Racks, were maybe 59 cents, and you'd pick up stuff and bring it into school. Now, none of that stuff from that era was, we'll say, treated well, but I definitely remember distinctly some of the cards from those eras and picking, cards out of packs and that sort of thing. In my mind, looking back to that time period, like the 5 and 10 on Friday night with all the gum selections and candy selections and cards and everything, it's just like you see the pictures online. Like that's the way the memories are. For me, they had a aisle basically full of candy and cards and non-sports, and wacky packages was huge at the time for us 8-9-year-olds. That was a big deal. And of course, the 79 is when the Pirates won the World Series. So even 78, 77, all of us kids in elementary were talking about the Pirates. So that was a big, and everybody's in Little League, and it's just the classic story.
No, yeah, definitely. That's the We Are Family team, right? The 79 Pirates.
Yes, sir.
Outstanding. So, who do you like personally? Are you a big Pirates collector? Do you have a big PC of a guy or two, or?
Well, I do collect Pirates. I try to, anything that's random out there, I usually will, shuffle through and pick out the Pirates or whatever. Anything I see online, look to see if there's a couple Pirates in a 70s lot. I'll pick up the whole lot just because, I want the couple Pirates and a few of the stuff that I don't have from the early 70s or 50s. And I distinctly remember, for example, me and my dad, unfortunately, I lost my dad when I was younger. And when we were young, when I was young, when I say we, I mean the sisters and so forth, we would stop at a record store, believe it or not, in 1980, 81.
What's a record?
Yeah, right. How about it? But they carried cards, right? They carried like old, cards from like the 50s and 60s. And my dad and I would go rifle through them and for 10 or 20 cents pick out the Pirates and stuff. So I got like cards from 56, 55 that, 1980. These are awesome to me. Like these are the greatest things ever. And still when I go to the National, like I gravitate towards those. Obviously it's that connection father-son type thing.
Cool.
That I still gravitate towards, even those are guys I didn't really know, but I do know them because I learned about them in my youth. Is
there any in particular that you're still searching for that you need for the the 70s range? Because then the boxes that I'm sorting through at the moment, I found like a good swath of especially 76 onwards. But there's been a few like 72s. I even found like a 62. So
I've got most of the team sets from, I want to say 73 on up. The early 70s, I don't. We had purchased a quote unquote collection, me and my dad, for like $5 in like 81, 82, right? From a guy that was just some 17, 18-year-old kid who was getting rid of his stuff. And it had a lot of 73, 74, 75 stuff in it. And when I say a lot, I mean like a couple hundred. But to me at the time, It was like a big deal. So, and I pretty well beat those cards to death in my youth too, unfortunately. But fortunately the kid collected a lot of Pirates too. So that was really our big collection purchase, when when we were young.
So naturally, you're missing most of the Clements and naturally the Honus Wagner, but along with everyone else.
Yeah, if you've watched any of the like the episode 0 YouTube, I do show off a couple T206s that I've been trying to pick up. Pirates from that era, trying to get a quote team set. Sans the John Wagner
-1. Yeah, sure. I've got my own going, but without Walter Johnson. Not the same monetarily, but just
understood.
they're not $40-$50.
It's good. It's good you bring that up though, because I think a lot of people don't understand like how many T206 cards are actually out there and how reasonably affordable they still are today.
Sure.
They estimate somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 million cards are still around. That tells you how many packs of cigarettes people were smoking back in the day.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And how many of those are actually have survived. You can pick up reasonable cards for $15 to $30. You know what I mean? And most people think, oh, T206, it's it's untouchable. It's really not.
Right. I mean, yeah. Obviously, it's going to be a bit different if you're picking up the Bob Grooms as opposed to the Christy Mathewsons or currently the lowest I see on eBay, a 1909 11 T206 Sweet Capital 350/30 edition of him in the pitching pose, 510, with 2 days left. Yeah, it's going to wait for a bit. I'll pick up a reprint.
Yeah.
Maybe my first bonus. But no, that's kind of another reason why we wanted to bring you on, because much like myself, you know a ton about A, just the hobby, but B, the vintage era and whatnot, much like the last interview that I did with Rich Klein at Saber Geek. Right. Mind you, he's a tad bit older, but
that was a good interview. I enjoyed that though.
Yeah, we thought so. It was a nice, candid. The audio could have been better, but we were in a hotel. What can you do? But we wanted to pose the similar, what do you remember most about, not necessarily collecting per se, because I kind of imagine, the scenes from like Willy Wonka where you walk down the aisle and there's just candy floor to ceiling, cards floor to ceiling. Obviously, it's not necessarily that bad, but, what do you remember about, since Series 1 just released, when new sets were released? For opening that first pack, seeing images, photos, whatnot.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, like that stuff was always exciting when the year turned over. And of course, by that period, like the 78, 79, what's funny is the cards weren't in series anymore. But going a little forward from that, so it was every year. When it really started chugging was 81, when all the three companies got into it. And by that point, my uncle, who really was kind of fringy as far as cards, but he introduced us to Sports Collectors Digest and TCMA, which you were talking about earlier, and Renita Glasgow. There were a lot of these companies out there who don't exist anymore, or are much smaller than they once were because the hobby changed. But I used to get the catalogs in the mail from Renita. I used to get the TCMA catalogs. There used to be a publication called Trader Speaks that I was always excited to get in the mail. And when you would see, and I remember distinctly when I speak of Trader Speaks, I distinctly remember that Larry Frisch, I'll tell you, he followed me on Twitter not long ago. I know he's no longer with us, but the account did. And that was a big deal to me. Like when one of my guys that I got his catalogs in the mail at 11, 12 years old, like that was a big deal.
Sure.
But I distinctly remember an edition of the Trader Speaks where they were introducing the 82 Donruss with the puzzle and all that, and where you'd see the new design. And man, that was way, way before internet and before you knew what was going on ahead of time. When you start seeing those images, 12, 13 years old, like that's a big deal. Like it was very exciting, like when the new cards would come out. And of course, what really kind of hooked us in of sorts, just like everybody of that era, was the error craze from Fleer and Donruss at the time.
Sure.
And really, a lot of these, like we live in a pretty rural area, a lot of these places weren't carrying Fleer and Donruss. They were still carrying Topps because they were embedded. And that was kind of the quote-unquote chase of the time, was trying to find Fleer or Donruss packs, which was kind of cool.
Well, and I can only imagine being so close to Topps' headquarters that you're even more so advertised to versus Donruss and Fleer. Donruss is actually was produced just down the road from me currently.
Mm-hmm. Right.
In Grand Prairie here. Now, I think they did some factory sets out of Illinois and a couple other places, but for the most part, the production stuff is all in this area, much like Panini is still currently. Yeah, that's one of those that, you know, hearing someone's impressions of a fresh set, pre-internet, pre-being able to see everything, not knowing that, you know, number one AL leader card is actually this player, that player. Well, it's just the leader card. You didn't know who was on it. You didn't necessarily know that you needed that card for your team set. If you're doing a team set, you need that one.
Right.
Well, I want to welcome. I see Ben hopped on. Good afternoon, Ben. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing good, boys. Sorry, I've had little one issues all afternoon.
Yeah, no worries. We know how that goes. So we got a little started a little late because I was dealing with some things here, wrestling a fat little monster. So
yeah, and my 5-year-old's definitely having a day. So yeah, I may or may not have to hop back off.
Sure.
What's up, Biggs? It's good to see you, brother.
Hey, same here.
Maybe the only person with a worse beard than Biggs here.
That's right.
I don't know that any of you boys saw the big 18-inch beard that I had last February this time. That was pretty extensive beard.
Maybe in pictures, but
this is about 3 weeks of not shaving right here. So
I can imagine. It's like the Spurs back in late 90s, first part of 2000s. I think it was the late 90s when they had Vinny Del Negro. They all tried to grow beards like you know, and he had what barely looked like, you know, for one of us might be, you know, like 2 days. And they're like, yeah, Del Negro's been growing it for a couple of years now, and it's finally starting to come in. And it's just, you know, I'm starting a new job, and I asked the HR gal, I'm like, is this going to be a problem? If I don't shave every day, is that going to be a problem? And she's like, can't go any lower than that. And I'm like, nah, because I play with it. So it won't grow any longer than this. That's it.
Right.
You know, but I admire people that do have like the big bushy ones, and that's damn impressive.
Absolutely. You know, outside of the Pirates, are there any particular players that you've collected, or not necessarily collected, but you have a personal tie to?
Believe it or not, which we had spoken in the past about, that was Matt Adams is the kind of local player for us here. And I do PC him as much as I can, try to get, without going into all the, you know, the crazy one-on-ones and all that stuff, because he's got a pretty big following in St. Louis.
Right.
Even though he's no longer there, people from St. Louis always continue to say they wish they'd have him back. But he's a local player for us here. And I know his parents actually fairly well, and I've known him pretty much his whole life. So I do try to keep up with his stuff.
So what you're saying is, if anybody has any extra Matt Adams base and or autos, just shoot them your way.
Hey, base, I like base. I like all kinds. In fact, I think I have some right here I have some Heritage. I've got about 10 or 20 of them right here. So.
That's awesome. It's always fun to collect. You know, I went to school and played with Nick Johnson, so much in the same way, I don't try to super PC him just because it's just too costly. But sure. It's fun. I mean, Tim and I, when we were at a card shop one time, found some Nick Johnson stuff, so it's fun to pick up. And he pulled some out of some boxes he recently went through. So yeah, if I don't have it, send me some Nick Johnson cards, but I'm not scouring sport lots like I imagine you're not with Matt Adams, but gladly welcome them if you can. So it's always fun when you have the tie. I know Derek Lee's a local kid that Tim has some ties to.
Yep. Right.
So,
well, and that's one of those that, you know, I have a few players and people that are close to me, or, you know, they have, I think it was 86 Donruss. They screwed up someone's name, and so instead of writing, you know, Russ Stevens, Phens, they actually wrote Steffens, like my name is spelled ANS, minus ask naturally. But so it's always nice hearing what everyone else collects. Is kind of oddball, not necessarily well, just the Pirates or just this, or just that. So we're all collectors. We all have sub collection of a sub collection of a third sub collection.
Well, definitely. I just remember I have these two Matt Adams, and so this one's out of 25. They'll be headed to a new home soon.
And I think I have a few too somewhere. Yeah. It's like this that I showed Ben earlier, but it's a Oakland A's minor league. Pull the camera out here. Oakland A's minor league card, but the player's from my hometown.
Now, it says Thief River. Does that mean you're a thief?
So the story is that the local Indian crew, when the American settlers were settling in the area, would raid the camps and take stuff. Now, there's a huge river that flows through town, and there's a couple waterfalls. Combine all three, you have the town name. Now, whether that's actually true or not, who knows?
But it's true, because people wouldn't make stuff like that up.
Right.
You know, I was talking to my wife in the car just now, and she's like, every time lately that I mention any topic, you're like, oh, I just watched a video of that on YouTube. and I had taken some time off work last couple months, and I told her, I was like, man, it's time to get back to work, because I'm pretty sure I've watched all of YouTube. By the way, Biggs, I love your new channel. I haven't watched your latest video. I plan to either today or tomorrow, but love the content. You know?
I appreciate that. That's what we were just talking. Whoop, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like your one on sales, we see eye to eye on. Sales is the foundation of everything. So we're always a salesperson, whether we're selling an item like a card or we're selling ourselves. And to build up that rapport. And your points were very poignant when you spoke about the fact that I would rather buy from you than Joe Blow on Twitter or eBay, even if it costs you a little bit more.
Right.
First off, your friend's probably not going to do you wrong. They're going to get you the best price that they feel comfortable with.
Right.
But I'm buying you. We're friends, and I would rather go to you first and foremost. And a lot of times it's about finding the right home. Like Matt Adams' card right there. Shep has. Those belong in your home, not his. If he's not collecting Cardinals or they're not part of his personal collection.
Yeah, and I'll tell you one thing too. You're talking about selling the person and so forth. That's what I think a lot of people over the years, talking about the long period of time that I've been around the hobby, everybody tells you often, you can't make any money in this business. You can't make any money in this business. It's a multi-billion-dollar a year business. Are you kidding me?
Sure.
Of course we can make money in this business. And it's about selling yourself. You're never going to be the lowest. And maybe not never. Sometimes you will. But for the most part, you're not going to be the lowest priced person. You've got to sell that experience and that wow factor that you bring to the table, whether it's you being personable to somebody or whether it's you taking the extra time to know what somebody else likes or follows and maybe throw a couple extra things in every here and again. And I think too many dealers or collectors fail to take that extra step for that wow factor experience.
With sales, I often argue about once you start selling, it's no longer a hobby because now it is a business. And, oftentimes you're going to have to report this to the IRS and your tax filing. So it can't be both a hobby and a business. For people that choose to make it a business and really venture down that, you can make money at this if done right. But you do have to embrace it as a business. We all sell cards or have sold cards as part of our hobby, which is usually I pulled a such and such card and I have no desire to keep it, so let me sell it and I'm going to reuse that money for personal collection purposes. Therefore, you are selling within the hobby and it's still a hobby. But once you decide I'm a mass breaker, we have friends, Brent Williams and Chris Torres, who we talk about a lot. They're using this as a business. It is a way to make money, whether it's their main source of income or supplemental income is irrelevant. It's a business. And yeah, I'm buying them. My experience with Brent and with Chris, with you, with anybody, You know, even if it's friend to friend, even if it's something like, hey, I got something, you know, I don't need every last dollar out of it. It's like you cover my shipping, and hey, if it's a $20, I mean, Tim's a good example. Last year, he pulled a Mark McGuire, low numbered Mark McGuire card, and he gave it to me. And I'm like, are you serious? You got to let me at least give you something.
You gave me a lot of grief over the years. Does that count?
I did. You can't put a monetary value on that.
And still does.
But, you know, he knew it was going to the right home, and if he ever needed something down the road, I'm there for him. So it's all going to come out in the wash. It doesn't have to be dollar for dollar amongst friends. And that's how you build up a reputation. And then if I have somebody that is looking, that may not know you, for instance, I can say, hey, look, Biggs is your guy. You know, buy from him because he and I are friends, and he's going to do you right, because now your reputation has preceded you through me and Steph and Shep and all the other people that you've encountered.
And extends to, right.
Yeah. So you're a Pirates fan, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, let's just be honest. All of our teams are pretty poor.
Right?
So,
I mean, just real quick. I mean, just think about the payrolls of all of our teams put together. It might equal to what the Yankees are going to spend this year. So, you know,
pretty much. So let me ask you a question. I don't know if you've been following our show over the last few weeks. We've been doing this iconic card collection. The one card that we feel represents each franchise. The 52 mantle, obviously, as a Pirates fan, it starts and stops with the Wagner. The whole hobby does. It's the most iconic card. So we're going to set that one aside. What are your opinions of the most iconic Pirates cards without including the Wagner? If you want to give us like 2 or 3, not necessarily your favorite. We'll ask that second. Let's just go with the ones that most people are going to recognize.
I think the 57 Clemente, which ironically has now been re-immortalized as part of the living set. The photo from that was used for the living set. That card in and of itself is very recognizable in that picture. Of course, one of the really gentlemen of the game and of life in general. You can't go wrong with Clemente. And of course, his rookie card, of course, is an iconic card. But the 57 picture, I think, just stands out more than any of his others. Willie Stargell, you look to like the 75 and 76 where he's got the giant sideburns, right? Kind of indicative of the generation. And you get a little more modern, like if you look at the Bowman Heritage rookie of Andrew McCutchen, you know, his hair is a little shorter. It's still got that little bit vintage look to it.
I should note that that's Andrew Stephen McCutchen.
But no, I think those are some pretty iconic cards of the franchise.
What about the 86 Barry Bonds, 87 Barry Bonds? Where would those rank amongst behind Clemente?
Right in there too, because he helped propel this organization back to prominence in the 90s. Unfortunately, he left. And I know a lot of people like to poo-poo on the PED thing, but realistically, the commissioner who is in the Hall of Fame right now that allowed that all to go down, really look at the NFL Hall of Fame. It's scattered with PED users. They kind of just got to turn their head at this point and let them in. But yeah, definitely the 86 Bonds is an iconic card as well.
Now, what are your? I mean, we all have favorite cards. We'll say like the 1984 Fleer Glenn Hubbard is a fan favorite. The Mickey Hatcher with the big love. There's iconic cards that are fun. You know, Billy Ripken's 89 Fleer. What are 2 or 3 of your favorite Pirates cards that aren't necessarily the Clementes and Bonds and Dave Parker's rookie, but just some of the ones that you've always found fun?
I like of the late 70s era. I do like the 78 team cards, like pretty much any of the cards from that era. They seem to be all in the same shoot. Somebody recently mentioned to me, actually Eric, had said that he thought it was an old Shea, but they're all in the white pinstripe tops, and they're mostly headshots. The Stargell and the Parker are my 2 favorite from that. but Mario Mendoza also has the white pinstripe top on, portrait shot. The 79 Stargell, that was, he was already, I know 79 and all that, but he was coming to the end of his career. You can see he's getting a little more out of shape. It's just like a personal favorite of mine. And one in particular I have a really good story about is the 63 Fleer Clemente. My dad picked it up at a flea market in 1981, right? And that was, the time we were starting to get going with cards. And it's not because it's Clemente, but because of the story behind it, which I really love. We picked it up, me and my dad. It's a blistering hot, July. My mom and my two sisters are sitting in the old 74 Delta 88 Oldsmobile brown. So they're beat to death hot out there. And after we're in there for far too long, my dad comes out, and I'm super excited. My dad got this card. And you got to remember, 1981, my dad making a couple bucks an hour working in the factory. It's a big deal. I come out and I vomited out, "You're never going to guess what Dad got," telling my mom. And my dad paid $5 for a card. And it was quite literally $5. That's exactly what he paid. And my mom was so mad. Like, what the hell are you spending $5 on a baseball card for? So, and unfortunately, a couple years later, in '85, my dad passed away, and I didn't mess with, quote, his cards. For several years after that, it was very difficult for me as a young boy. Turns around 1981, I finally 1991, excuse me. I dig out that card, and I dig out a tough stuff at the time, and I show my mom what it's worth at the time. And my mom's like, "Oh."
I mean, that's a typical mom response. No matter what he would have spent on the card, it still would have been probably twice as much as she would have preferred.
What's funny is it's the same thing now. It's just our wives instead of our moms, right? Same.
Certainly.
Why do you need 14 parallels, honey? Because they make them, and they want us to buy them.
That's correct.
You say that as my mom's downstairs listening. Hi, Mom.
All right, so here it is, Biggs. Since we got you on, all right, we're going to be in a wrestling ring, and you're my tag team partner because I'm 100% certain we are identical. Tim's on the other side with any schmo that he picks up off Twitter, because everybody on Twitter on this particular topic are wrong, with the exception of people like us. We have a mid-70s team set in front of us. Okay? You got your team card, your manager card, you got your multiplayer rookie cards, you got your league leaders, you got your cards. Okay, I'm tagging you in. How are you putting them in order?
I'm putting the team set first. I'm putting the team card first.
Gotcha.
Then I'm putting the cards generally in order by alphabetical order.
Got it.
And then the manager card would be second if there is a manager card.
Perfect.
And any quote traded cards, like if we're talking mid-70s, we're looking at like 74 with the traded series. They would come at the very end. It would be my opinion.
So what we did here was we just TKO'd, smacked down through Tim and his numerical right off the top of the Hell in the Cell.
Yeah, right.
That's how that worked.
Yeah.
Well, now that this interview's over, guys, have a good afternoon.
The time that would ever be appropriate would be 1981 Fleer.
any Fleer where it works numerical and alphabetical is perfect.
That's correct.
But
that's the only time it's appropriate. And
to me, it's like
team card.
You have 12 cards, right? And it's arbitrarily placed within a set of 350. Why do I care? You know how arbitrarily they're placed. I want to put them because it's my collection. I want to look at them. And what's fun is when you go from set to set. Like let's say you go from 75 to 76, and you have, I'll use some A's, right? So you've got Sal Bando's in the same spot, and then all of a sudden he changes from one year to the next. Why did he change? Who came before him, or are they no longer with the team, or are they a new addition? And then you can start to see, the team as it changes from year to year, or modern day where, you'll have sets that only have one or two guys in a base set, like say like a museum collection or something like that. If you're going page to page, you can see Tops's idea. Sure. Numerical is just random. I don't get the premise, and so anybody who thinks that way is wrong.
Well, and I agree, but here's my counter argument, Ben. When you're making a checklist, it's a whole lot easier to say, okay, I have the manager card, I have the team photo card, I have whatever league leaders but now I have 29, I have 59, I have 79, I have 80, I have 121, I have, and you can go straight by number. Now, from a collector point, it makes a whole lot more sense to put them in alphabetical or whatever order you want. But if you're still gathering your cards, and not so much, where you got, you're making 50, 60, 100,000 a year where you can just go out and buy the full set on its own.
But look at this. I'm not going to a card show with this in my hand underneath my arm going, okay, I need some 1975. And I'm going to open it up and I'm going to, come on. You know which ones you're missing, or you have a checklist.
Is he now somewhat flip-flopping now that we've got him on camera? Is that
my thing? Ben, you said you have a checklist, but wouldn't the checklist be by number, which is the correct order they would be in?
Thank you.
See, but a checklist is okay being by number because it's not a photo album of cards.
That's correct.
If it's within Excel is designed to be put in a sort data, however you want to do. If you want to do it alphabetical, that's fine as well. But on an Excel or on a piece of paper, it's okay to be in numerical order. As soon as I now have a photo album of all of my A's between 1985 and 1987, no, I want them in alphabetical order, and I want them, with the inserts at the very end, if there's inserts, subsets after the main set. Come on,
right?
Quit being a pansy and take them out of numerical order and put them in alphabetical.
They were given a number for a reason, so.
Yes, to be a part of a bigger set where you have 26 or 30.
Yeah, so that way you can see the set broken up by the team and where they landed in the set.
Oh my god!
So
I hate that stance and everything that stance stands for. I love you, but on that one, you are dead ass wrong.
The kids these days, you can't do nothing with them. It's terrible.
Yeah, kids and their phone calls and whatnot. But no, Jenny brings up a good point in chat here a bit ago. You were talking about how things have changed from years to years, and now you've got people breaking online instead of you actually going to buy your own cards, and maybe not even receiving the cards, depending on which breakers you break with. But what have you seen either in the shift between collecting a set to collecting just the rookies? What's some of the bigger changes you've seen since you started collecting?
Boy, that's a very interesting and multifaceted question there. Honestly, you're right. I think the rookie craze really has been around since '80. When Joe Charbonneau, won the Rookie of the Year, and people were looking for his card, in '81.
Sure.
That was, to me, that was the first big rookie card craze that I experienced, and I think that the hobby really experienced and tried to focus towards that. I think in general, a lot of people at the time, like 80s into the 90s, were still focused on sets. And I think now as the products, there's so many, many more products. I think people then now focus on more specialized content, whether it be if you're into rookies or whether you're into sets or that type of thing. They focus more on one set or focus more on just the rookies or just this particular PC guy. I think it's really changed a lot with the way things have changed. The 90s, of course, a lot of people were trying to get not just the inserts of the guys they liked, but tried to get the whole insert set. And now that's kind of even become a little cost prohibitive to most people because there's just so many varieties of everything. And
sure.
to get now to get a rainbow of somebody is a big deal, or to get a whole team set of a certain, like I forget who it is online, was picking up all the cards numbered to 76 out of the 2019 Series 1 of
Chris
their
Torres
team.
Chris,
Yes,
right?
Yeah. In fact, he says he's not really a collector. He only collects certain sets like that, and that's one that struck his fancy over the last few years.
I've done that myself. Yep, one or two. Not every year, but just one or two. Like the 68 Heritage that was out a couple years back. I got the blue bordered version of the Pirates team set. Hunted them all down, and boy, I tell you, it is tough. I mean, when you want to put out a challenge like that to yourself, you got to get on it quick. If you don't get on it quick, a lot of those cards are never seen again.
The Meyer exclusive purple parallels from Series 1 are a perfect example. I've put together the A's team set, which is 12 cards, and at an average of $5 a piece, you're looking at a $60 set.
That's
now,
right.
the yellow Walgreens come out in 2 months, or at the end of end of next month, first part of April. Most of us have already moved on and past Heritage and are on to opening day or whatnot. You probably don't have any needs. So what are the odds of? I mean, Walgreens is not a big. It's not like Walmart or Target where people are going to go there to buy. That yellow parallel set, it speaks to your point. It's going to be damn hard, I think, to put together a complete team set. And if you can, it's going to be. I mean, I imagine a lot of those fingers are going to start selling around $10 and above.
Oh, indeed. If they show up, you know what I mean? And that's the thing. There was a yellow bordered set from Walmart a couple of years ago I was keeping an eye on. And there's one card I've still not seen since that year. And it's like, holy smokes, once they dry up quick, people will move their attention so fast. It might be in a 10-cent box somewhere, but you may never find it.
Well, we ran into that last year with the National Baseball Card Day sets that were given away at the stadium. The A's only had about 3,000 people at the stadium that day. So how many people were able to actually complete the 10-card set when you're only getting 3 or 4 in a pack?
Right.
So you have to not only have people that were able to put together a set, but have now sold them. And my team set, I think, cost $25. The Royals, the Rays, the Brewers were all selling for about 10. And so I was thinking, I'm not paying 250% above other teams. And I started thinking, if I don't buy this, there's a good chance I'm not going to find another one. And those aren't going to hit sport lots. It's like once they dry up, I mean, I've got the complete run of Mother's Cookies cards from 84 through 98. Good luck going back and completing that stuff.
Or even like the New Era ones where they were given away if you went and bought a New Era product in the stadium last year. And I think the year before.
Sure.
Well, and that was an example. I traded 400 Cubs cards over to Bo, our friend, 1 Million Cubs Project. 400 cards for the one Ricky Henderson, and he looked at it like a win, and I looked at it like a win because he got one, and they weren't available out here for Tim and I. We could not find one because they weren't available in San Francisco, Oakland, L.A. by either L.A. Stadium or San Diego. I think they were all Midwest or East teams, and so we had to rely on our friends or somebody to post one on eBay at an overinflated price.
Which today, though, that is much easier than it ever was. Looking back, like to 80, 81, 82, like, holy smokes, trying to find some of those error cards at the time. And people don't even now recognize them. But like the 81 Fleer with the middle finger cards, where the little scribble was on the back that looked like a middle finger. Man, that was an ordeal at the time. Today, it wouldn't even have been considered rare because there were so many of them, because the internet has broken down a lot of those walls too. So there's good and bad to both sides of that.
Or like the Billy Martin where his finger's kind of extending on the bat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, we were talking about, my dad and I were talking about that yesterday because he's been buying a lot of the old starting lineup figures. And he was talking about which cards do you have, which ones do you need. And a lot of the starting lineups were sold regionally in 88, 89, and 90. And because they were marketed to kids, at that time I'm 9, 10 years old. So the first thing I'm going to do is open it up, set the card aside, and put the figure up on my shelf. So how many of us, Tim and myself being the same age, how many of us did that? So now here it is 30 years later. Good luck finding some of those. Or if you are, you're still buying these at $40, $50 a pop. And all you want is the card.
I've been waiting 30 years for that stuff to dry up, for crying out loud.
Yeah, here's a picture of that Billy Martin. No, and then another question we had for you too is, hey, Steph, you want to pull that Kingman card up? We had this discussion last week and the DM, Steph just fell away, about when you have a player listed on 2 different teams. So this is an 83 Topps Kingman. It was the super veteran where it's an old black and white picture of him with the Giants and then a current day 83 photo with him as a Met. It's listed as a Mets card. It's because it's currently that year as a Mets card. But if you're a Giants collector and I have a Giants collection, do you put that in that team set? Does that get included?
Personally, in my opinion, no. But
wrong button.
As far as my PC, I wouldn't collect the Giants version of the card if it was a Pirates. I would focus more on the Mets version of it.
But as
So
a
you
dual
rip it in
card,
half then?
now, team sets for you would not list that as a Giants card or a Mets card. I was looking up the A's one the other day, and they did have the Raleigh Fingers listed as an A, despite it being a Brewer on the checklist. Although they, for some reason, missed the Reggie Jackson, which was an A and a California Angel. So they're not technically team cards, but at the same time, at least for me as an A's fan, I've got to have them.
Right. See, like if I was a Mets guy, right, I would say that Kingman, yes, should be part of the collection for that year, but not necessarily for if I was a Giants guy, I wouldn't be looking at it because I'm thinking of it as more the current team for that year is what I'm.
Sure.
Yep, in my personal opinion.
So I got two for you then, kind of follow-ups. What about the OPG where it says now playing with team or now with team?
Boy, those are interesting, aren't they? I generally tried in my own path, tried to get the ones that were now playing with, because it would say Pirates or whatever on the card itself as far as the border, wherever the name was on there. That's where I would default to.
Okay. Makes sense. And the other, as I'm trying to get an example pulled up here. What about where they're pictured in one jersey, but they're playing with another? But unless you know that, you don't know that.
What the 85 Belcher was one we brought up, where it says first overall, first round draft pick by the Minnesota Twins. It's a Twins card, but he's in an Oakland A's uniform, and I do have that as part of my team set, although it's not documented or cataloged as part of the team set. I just have one.
I would probably still default to what the card references it as.
So, like, for example,
that would be my PC trade. Yeah, so that one I would default to Mariners.
But if you were a Twins fan, you wouldn't want it as part of your set?
I wouldn't turn it away, no.
But you wouldn't pursue it?
Right.
Gotcha, okay.
Yep, because to me, he's no longer with that team.
Well, yeah, and if you're scouring the checklist, if we haven't seen the cards yet, obviously we know these cards that are 30 or 40 years old that have, these guys pictured on different, 1964 Jerry Lumpy is an A, Kansas City A, but it's a Detroit Tiger card. There's all kinds of examples. But
right.
If it's a 2019 card, let's say it's Topps Heritage. Manny Machado is obviously going to be a Dodger if he's on the checklist. He's definitely not going to be a Padre at this point. But if opening day came out and he's half and half, where it's a Padre card as a Dodger, but looking at the checklist, we're not going to know that.
Right.
We're talking.
A good example, just within the last week, is Josh Harrison signed with the Tigers, whereas in Series 1, it would have been nice if it would have followed up that way. Series 1, he come out as a Pirate. Now that, I'll take that Pirate card into the Pirates team set per se. If he would have come out in a Pirates uniform on the card as a Pirate, the minute he's gone, he's dead to me.
See what's funny about, especially the four of us being Royals, Pirates, A's, and Twins respectively. At least I know as an A's fan, man, I got a lot of people on my dead list then. Probably
Sure.
more on my dead list than my block list on Twitter. I mean,
same with the Pirates.
Yeah, I mean, us all being in small market teams, unfortunately, we can name 10, 15 guys just over the last couple of years that have switched teams for monetary reasons and nothing else. It's not that we didn't want to keep Eric Hosmer or Mike Moustakas as a Royal. Pardon me?
The only one that's not dead to me is Andrew McCutchen. He's the only one.
Yeah, but he's iconic, and he spent so many years there. It's a little different with him than, say, one of the other guys that were there for, Josh Harrison, for instance.
Yeah.
Sure.
He was a good player. He did you guys right. He was a multi-position player, good guy, at least from afar. I don't think he got a whole lot. His nose was relatively clean off the field. But, hey, he's moved on to another team now. He's a Tiger. You wish him the best. We've got those guys all along. Yeah, Jed Lowry for me. I love Jed Lowry. He's played with the team twice now. I'll love him forever. But hey, he's a Met. That's what it is now. He's moving on.
That's right.
You know, he never gets into the Ricky Henderson category. You know, he gets into the Carney Lansford category, fan favorite, but he's not iconic like McCutcheon is.
Right.
And relatively kept his nose clean on like some early '80s Pirates teams, but that's not necessarily trade related. But no, I mean I agree. Like players like Justin Morneau, I still have some of his Chicago Cubs and Pirates and Rockies cards. A few of those. Same with Michael Kadire. It kind of stinks that they go for chasing money, or they were injured, or team didn't resign them, or owner says some really racist shit in the back room, and the player demands a trade. Broad career. But on a completely unrelated topic to lighten the mood, because you've gone a couple times, and I know we've met Chad and Angela's supposed to come in here, but what do you look forward most to during either the Nationals or the weeks the years that you've not gone the week of, and B, what do you look for while you're there?
Number one, in recent years, I have looked forward to seeing everybody I possibly can. I've missed a few the last couple years.
Sure.
Either they didn't show, I don't know who I'm talking about there, or just our paths didn't cross. The camaraderie of the individuals, I have really grown into that. But as far as the show itself, like just taking in the absolute enormity of stuff that you don't see, and I mean, you guys are fairly lucky in that you get shows where you're at. We haven't had a show within 150 miles of us, and I can't tell you how long. And just to have, the enormity of dealers there with the different products. I love checking out all the vintage stuff. I've been not as focused as I have earlier.
Sure.
Last year I did make like one or two particular things I wanted to make sure that I got while I was there. And I did. One of them was the 62 in action mantle. I believe it's a PSA 1. I got it for, $30-$40, whatever. It was not a whole lot, but that was one in particular I was looking for that was rather centered. Or getting to see some of the guys like Levi Bleem from 707, who has relationships with people that I know that were dealers in the early 80s. Getting to talk to some of those guys and see, what they're up to these days. And number one, though, I think the National, for most people is growing into the camaraderie. Because you can get, even though we don't really have any shops or shows anywhere near us, you can get boxes and all that stuff pretty much anywhere between, all the big distributors anymore. You can get stuff online very easy, but boy, it's the camaraderie.
Yeah. To me, it seems like a big class reunion
right?
Of people
kind
you
of,
use.
Yeah.
That's what I want. Like, hell, I've known stuff for a long. I feel like I've known stuff a long time, and we've done the show, but we've never actually physically met in person. And there's other folks like that I feel like I've known for years, and we've made dozens of deals or done things for each other, but we've never met. And that's kind of like my big point of going. It's like it's cool to go see stuff, and also like, hey, there's a Babe Ruth jersey right there.
Right.
But also I get to meet all these guys and gals I spend my days and hours talking to, and that to me seems like one of the best things about it.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, in this day and age, we can see pretty much anything we want. We can buy whatever we want. Most of the stuff is available on eBay or other websites at some point or another. But there's the Cooperstown effect. I'd love to go to Cooperstown to be able to walk through it, enjoy the experience, be next to all of the great relics and memorabilia of yesteryear. But to be able to shake your hand and give you a hug and go, hey, brother, it's good to finally see you in person is different than web chatting. And, we all live apart from some of our family members. And even though we know them, it's different to be able to hug them and sit with them and and chat in person. So I imagine a lot of what you're buying is the experience of being around a lot of your friends, as opposed to just being able to go check out a T206 Wagner,
Right.
which may or may not have come to other shows that we've seen. I saw one as a kid, so it's like, yeah, it's neat, but that experience.
And all the crazy things that like Tops does or Blowout does, or
Right.
some of those things, you don't get a bunch of like-minded individuals in the same room together like that you can do all the crazy, you got Fish with the big megaphone screaming out all the numbers and people going crazy over, a box of, whatever that who cares? It's the experience. Or you got Alan Nars, at the Tops booth running the Pack Wars and all that stuff. Like, that stuff's crazy. You know what I mean? It's just like, you don't get that every day. You don't get the Tops Q&A where you get to talk to people that actually have influence. Like, those are awesome things. Or seeing Tracy. Like, Tracy Hackler of Panini is a phenomenal individual and recognizes you and talks to you every time he sees you. This guy's got much bigger fish to fry, but he knows you every time he sees your face. And I'm, and we'll talk to you like he's your brother. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, and then each time that I walked past, he's always pointed out, "Hey, you're still not ruthless, are you?" Like, no, I still have it. It's over there in the corner. But it's definitely the experience. Or I mean, the first time we actually met, I think me and Angela had just broken a box. We were sitting because it's a huge convention floor. You're going to have to sit occasionally and rest the feet, if nothing else. And Tops definitely has the best carpet. People have gone know what I'm talking about. But we were sitting, just finished breaking a box and wrapping things up. And I think you'd walked by with your wife and the stroller. And like, hey, isn't that Junk Wax? Shit, who is it? Who did I piss off? Who's coming up here? I'm like, yeah, that's me. And we started talking, and that's just how things go. But it's definitely the experience that sells everything. But I don't know. You guys got anything else?
I don't know. This has been great. I love it. Little impromptu Sunday conversations here. Maybe it's something we can get maybe on a little bit more of a regular basis. Biggs, I appreciate you hopping on with us and spending an hour with us.
I have one more question. I apologize if you asked this, but I doubt you have. Did you ask the one card you'd own question or not?
Not yet. There we go.
So there it is.
That's where I was headed.
So you liquidate your whole collection, brother. You get to keep one card. What you got?
That 1963 Fleer Clemente. It graded a 5.5 from SGC several years ago because I had to have it entombed because I didn't want it getting any more degraded than it was. That card is my card. Like, that card goes in my coffin. That's
we were
card.
separated at birth because mine's the 86 Eric Davis that my cousin gave me. It was the one that I pulled out of the pack. It's the one that started this obsession. That's what's funny too. And these cards really aren't worth that much. They can be bought in much better condition. I mean, my card's a nickel card. Come on.
Right.
That's what I love about it is it's not what's your most expensive. We all have a most expensive. When people are like, "What's your best card?" Which one that's most valuable? I'm like, no. Value or worth? I got one that's worth the most.
Right.
The one you would sell if we have an emergency. That's what you go to.
Yeah.
And it's my 1909 Eddie Plank E-Caramel. That's the one you sell if we need gas money. But the one that's most valuable, mine's the 86 Davis. Yours is the Clemente. That's what I love, brother.
Yep, that's an iconic story to me, and especially the connection to my dad, who's no longer with us. And I feel like I've done all this. Like, I still think of it in terms of we, with regards to my dad. So, like, a lot of this is still what we are doing, even though he's not with us anymore.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Real quick, there was a commercial. I forget what it was for now, but there was a radio commercial about a dad taking his kids away on a trip, and they got stung by bees, and the tent collapsed, and there was a mudslide, and there was like 10 or 12 things that were horrible, and the dad just like, man, what a terrible weekend. And then you hear the kids talk. Remember that time, Dad, that we were out there and the tent collapsed and we got stuck in the mud and we all got stung by the bees? Best weekend ever, Dad. And it's all about perception. You know, what makes that card special to you isn't because it's a pirate card or an iconic pirate card or a Clemente. What's special is it's that singular card is not, you know, it's like grandma's heirloom. It's worthless to anybody,
Right.
but it's invaluable to you. That story is what makes that card awesome.
Because
Yeah,
I got my dad a raft of shit over $5.
But see, I'm glad you shared the story behind the card, because that's what makes it special.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's why we like having people like you on, because we're all the same. You know, we're all in this hobby together, so we should enjoy it. And we all have stories like that.
Right, and it's a nice hobby spotlight. And speaking of spotlights, why don't you tell everyone where to find you, your podcast? I mean, we always intro the show to, hey, we're this person, you can find us at. Why don't you bookend the show?
Well, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. If you look on any of the major platforms for podcast, Apple, Google Play, Spotify, any of the ones you do, it's The Backyard Diamond. If you search for that, you'll find it. Or if you search my name, Biggs Daddy Cool, BIGGSDADDYCOOL, you can find it on there. And of course, the same thing on YouTube. If you look for The Backyard Diamond or Biggs Daddy Cool, you can find me on there. I try to get out episodes on Wednesday and Thursday for the YouTube, and then the subsequent day for the podcast. So usually Thursday and Sunday, the podcast comes out. I appreciate you giving me that opportunity.
No, absolutely. No problem.
Well, Biggs, it was great to have you on and get to talk with you for, gosh, almost an hour here today. And I'm glad we had some folks hopping in and enjoying the Saturday chat. So we might have to do this again. And we'll be live again Wednesday with our normal show. So come and check that out. We also have Mike Summers at the Mike Summers on Twitter on to talk about selling and breaking cases and selling a lot in sport lots. So be a good conversation plus some heritage talk. And we're going to wrap up our final week of the iconic collection with the defunct franchises. And we're going to name our winners for the divisions and what that's going to look like as far as the most iconic card that we've talked about over the past several weeks. So, guys, if you don't have anything else, we're going to sign off and enjoy the rest of our Sunday. And again, I thank everybody and Biggs and Steph for setting this up. I appreciate it. And Ben for hopping on. And we'll talk to you all soon. All right, fellas.
Hey, I'm humbled and blessed to know all three of you gentlemen, and I appreciate having you all as friends.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, guys. We'll see you soon. Later.
Yep.